Around 2012, 3 years after Bitcoin's birth, someone had an interesting idea. Replace proof of work with an alternative called proof of stake, which is faster and a lot less expensive overall. Back then, several competing projects such as Peercoin and NXT were launched to try and create the first cryptocurrency based on it. And, over time, what once was an extremely sought-after selling point simply became the norm. But it didn't stop there. Proof of stake kept evolving, and nowadays we've been seeing some pretty interesting developments. For example, on the Cosmos side, the idea of interchain security has emerged, and with it, assets staked on one chain can secure another chain. With interchain security, it's even possible to secure an entirely new chain with assets that already have been staked on the Cosmos hub. This allows for a much greater security and a much higher number of validators right from the moment the network is born. But that system is only applicable to Cosmos SDK-based chains. It is not universal. Obviously, that means there is no such system on Ethereum, especially since it was not originally designed for other chains to gravitate around it, unlike Cosmos. Ethereum was simply intended to allow users to create applications and innovate without having to modify the Ethereum protocol itself every time, and it fulfilled that mission brilliantly. Despite this, over time we still saw various kinds of Layer 2 networks built around Ethereum because it wasn't really possible to make big changes without being part of the core developer team alongside Vitalik Buterin. So innovation at the protocol level still was permissioned in a way, despite the fact that Ethereum allowed permissionless innovation at a higher level, with decentralized applications. Because of that, the emergence of L2 blockchains was mostly inevitable. After all, Ethereum remains the birthplace of decentralized finance, NFTs and metaverses. Even today, it still is where the majority of financial activity takes place on the blockchain, and it's got the highest market cap of all smart contract platforms. The end result is that today, Ethereum is entirely surrounded by sidechains like Polygon and rollups like Optimism, Arbitrum and Starknet, which have tried to overcome its shortcomings in their own ways. But these sidechains, whatever shape they took, all suffer from the same problem. They cannot take full advantage of the security offered by the Ethereum network and its large amount of validators with considerable resources at stake. And for many years, this was a completely unsolvable problem since Ethereum ran on proof of work and it is virtually impossible to get miners to run multiple networks at the same time for several reasons, one of which is that mining's main cost is hardware. With staking, hardware doesn't cost a lot and capital is the biggest expense for validators. But luckily, since the merge happened in 2022, Ethereum has been using proof of stake, which allows for new possibilities. Obviously, the Ethereum ecosystem didn't suddenly end up made of multiple chains based on the same development kit, but it did get something almost as good. And that is the project this video is dedicated to, namely Eigenlayer. Eigenlayer is based on a very simple but still impressive idea which could almost single-handedly fix the lack of connectivity and security of chains built around Ethereum. The basic concept behind it radically changes the way we approach staking. For those of you who don't already know, staking primarily refers to a process that consists in using assets as collateral in exchange for the right to participate in the operation of a network or an application. When staking, if you try to act dishonestly, your assets end up seized or destroyed, and so it is not profitable to attack the network. Compared to proof of work, proof of stake is more energy efficient, capital efficient, and faster, but in itself it does not solve every single problem out there, such as the lack of validators and staked assets that all new networks face. Furthermore, in their current state, neither proof of stake nor proof of work are designed to be particularly flexible with respect to the individual choices that validators might want to make. Indeed, whether on Ethereum or elsewhere, validators must closely follow the established rules when it comes to block validation. Of course, any validator can unilaterally declare, for example, that they will not validate any transactions issued by known pirates, and they may very well respect their own promises. But there is no way for the network itself to enact punishment for breaking such promises, so they have close to no value whatsoever. Secondly, one of staking's main issues is that you can't stake your assets in two places at once. You have to choose one network only, which means when you have to choose between two networks, you often decide to stake either on the more profitable network if both networks are equally reliable, or on the more reliable and older network if the other is too new and doesn't inspire confidence. Because of that, if new networks want to attract stakers, they have to crank up their interest rates to compensate for the fact that they are very young. And if they do this, these networks often condemn their own token's price to fall, since the circulating amount increases too fast. Then the stakers leave because they lose money, and the network is back to square one with no security and no stakers. Or at least that's how it used to be until Eigenlayer came along. Since it is named something layer, one might expect this system to be based on an entire independent network dedicated to solving these problems, but it's actually not that complicated. In fact, Eigenlayer is a simple application with which it will be possible individually for each staker to customize and increase the complexity of staking rules they want to follow and receive increased rewards in return. That process has been named restaking and shouldn't be confused with liquid staking and superfluid staking, which have very little to do with it. All three techniques improve the yield you get, but that really is their only common point. Indeed, restaking's main goal is completely different. Its first purpose is to build a new market for trust and network security. Increasing staking's profitability is only a consequence here, not the main objective. Of course, you may wonder what this trust market thing is and what it looks like, but Eigenlayer's development isn't done yet. There's no interface I can just show you, and it is not expected to be available until the end of 2023. So we'll have to talk about theory only, which is as follows. Eigenlayer will be an application through which stakers who wish to take part in this new market will have to pass. Rather than staking their ethers directly through the network, they will send them to Eigenlayer, which will stake for them. And it is thanks to this specific position in the staking process that Eigenlayer can truly revolutionize staking. Because from the moment the staker has to go through the application to withdraw his funds, it becomes possible for the application to prevent the withdrawal of funds if certain conditions aren't met. In classic staking, this is called slashing. And since Eigenlayer's position allows it to use slashing against its users, it becomes possible for it to add new unstaking conditions on top of the default ones which are related to Ethereum block making. These new conditions can't go against the network's own rules, of course, but as long as they don't, they can be added on top. It will be possible for a new rollup network's developers, for example, to create something like a job offer on the application, according to which if a user participates in the creation of blocks for that new network, the user would then be rewarded with that rollup's native token, which would be paid to him through the Eigenlayer app. This way, the stakers can be rewarded if they choose to follow these additional rules. And in return, if they commit to those rules but then end up attacking the new network or simply not doing their job, the Eigenlayer application will penalize them by confiscating part of the assets they have staked. So in a way, the application will work a bit like job marketplaces such as Upwork and Fiverr. The new networks or decentralized applications that need stakers will publish something like job offers on the application with a reward that can be paid in Ether or even other tokens if they so desire. And on the other side, we'll have stakers who will use Eigenlayer to increase the yields they get. They will be able to use their ethers, which are staked anyway, but also their liquid staking tokens, if the application or network chooses to allow those. And the end result is that users get better yields, while new networks and applications become a lot more secure. It's a win-win system with limited downsides and risks. And that system's positive effects are more important than you might think. First of all, it allows validators who currently have more processing power than they need to really make the most of their hardware. If they see they can stake for new networks that don't require too much power, they could just use the same machines as they do for Ethereum staking and earn more that way. Technically, it would even be good for the environment, since with a more robust validator network from the get-go, less other people would buy computers just to validate blocks for this new network. Instead, we would make better use of existing computers. And secondly, the most important of its positive effects is about security, of course. Currently, to secure a decentralized application such as an Oracle, which needs a consensus and has a native token, the maximum value of the assets that will secure this application often just is the native token's market cap. When it is a very new application, this market cap is tiny, which means that the application will not be very secure before it becomes popular. But to be popular, it must be secure, so there's a bit of a chicken and egg problem here. With Eigenlayer, this problem could completely disappear, because the dApps that use it will be able to be secured not only by the economic value that is contained within their own token, but also potentially by the economic value contained within all the ethers that have been staked on the Ethereum network. Of course, this is a very optimistic idea, since in practice, some stakers will not use Eigenlayer, and among those who do, only some of them will want to stake for this new application specifically. That being said, even with conservative estimates, new applications easily could be 100 or 1,000 times more secure. Let's imagine, for example, a new application that launches with about 100,000 euros in staked assets that guarantee its security, which isn't exceedingly rare. Today, there are about 17.6 million ethers staked on the Ethereum network, which is about 29 billion euros. If even just 1% of these stakers decide to use Eigenlayer and commit to securing that new application, then it would benefit from 290 million euros in staked assets being used to secure it, on top of the 100,000 euros in native tokens that already have been staked. With just 1% of the Ethereum network's financial power, that new app's security could be improved 3,000-fold. And the thing is, nowadays, when you launch a new network or an application that needs to establish consensus, the biggest of all security problems often is the value of staked assets as well as the amount of independent validators. With Eigenlayer, that would disappear, and the new biggest problem would just become code security. This means that with Eigenlayer, it becomes much easier to launch new projects and innovate permissionlessly, not only with applications but also with entire networks, thanks to Ethereum's staking power and validator network. And the best part is that these new networks wouldn't even have to be Ethereum-centric like rollups. We could very well see independent networks using Ethereum validators as a sort of springboard so they can be secure before getting their own solid validator set. All they would need is a way to transfer information and tell the Eigenlayer app which validators are doing their job or not. Eigenlayer could therefore not only propel the entire Ethereum ecosystem to new heights with permissionless innovation at all levels, but also enable entirely separate ecosystems to be born by protecting them right after birth, when they are most fragile. So I can only advise you to keep an eye on the news regarding Eigenlayer, which should be released during 2023. It is not yet known if there will be an Eigenlayer token you could invest in, but one thing's for sure, it will probably be one of the top staking dApps very soon. In any case, we'll have to wait for a while, so hang on to your seats, and until then, good luck.